Welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business podcast. Today I have with me Alexis Dormandy. Hello.
Hello there.
So Alexis, tell us a bit about you and also where you come from and the work that you sort of do now.
Fine. Well, my background is I trained as a doctor, which is totally irrelevant to everything that came thereafter. Yeah. Well, but I left that behind. Ended up at Virgin. Spent most of my career at Virgin.
Okay.
Was in charge of launching businesses for them. So launched Virgin Mobile and Virgin Active, were the two biggest business that people have heard of.
Blimey. Okay. Well done.
And then thank you. And then I sat on the board of Virgin, and then went to Orange, and then spent some time sort of investing in a bunch of businesses across Europe. And then basically you've come back to the bit I really enjoy, which is launching things and being sort of at the sharp end. So that's what I'm doing now.
So I remember I reached out to you about a year ago actually, and trying to, because I've found the Love This application, the Love This business that you're currently involved with, but it's only that, and I think you were a bit too busy because you were in sort of fundraising or something late last year, and then so I sent another email because I saw some coverage in e-consultancy, and I thought I'm going to try and reach out to Alexis again, see if he'd like that to do that interview. So, but for the benefit of our readers and our listeners and things, Love This, what's it all about?
Right,
all about.
So Love This it's a way of ensuring you never forget a recommendation again.
Okay.
So we all have that situation.
My own and also others?
My own and my friends.
Okay.
So it has sort of two parts, one of which is a friend tells you about a great book you should read, great restaurant you should go to, great bar you should go to. We know what happens. By the time you've walked out of the room, you've forgotten about the restaurant, you've forgotten the friend recommended it, and as a result, you've missed out on those evenings of fun that you could have had.
Sure.
Or good read. The second part of it is to, when you get those, I call them the needles in the haystack, the great things you want to do, you make it incredibly easy to share with friends and for friends to see it as well. So you get to a sort of collective knowledge of the great things in life. Uh-huh. So between you and your friends, you sift through the haystack and end up with the needles.
Fantastic. And so one of the things I'm really interested in on the blog is about how businesses build better relationships with their customers. And it seems to me that your application it's very much targeted on the front end, very much targeted at people and helping them find and share sort of great things that they encounter with their friends in their network. Where's the benefits sort of for businesses as well? Does the businesses kind of, can they use it as well to help them understand their customers more as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it provides is a meritocracy for businesses. So what it should be is the best business should win. So I'll take an example. We've got there's a small business that they import Italian food from Italy.
Okay.
And surprise, surprise, it tastes much better. You sort of don't believe it, but the tomatoes do taste better, and so on. They survive entirely on word of mouth. It's a incredibly hard slog. Right. That business, just trying to get out there, get yourself heard about, make those sales, and so on. But the reality is they have a much better product, and if you want really high quality Italian sourced food, she can provide it for you.
Okay.
Now, since she was one of her customers put them on Love This, her friends saw about it, and whereas previously she relied on, she sells to one person, they have to remember to tell somebody else about them, remember the address, remember the website, so on, and it sort of drip feeds through their network. With us, goes in, 20 friends know, half an hour later, their 40 friends know half an hour after
then
that.
It spreads far.
And suddenly she's calling me saying, I don't quite know what you've done, but I seem to be saying a lot of pesto, and that's how it helps businesses. If you've got a great product, you'll win quicker.
So my next question was going to be: do you think small businesses are doing enough to facilitate sort of word of mouth? And I mean, if anything, if I was a small business, like say we were meeting in a quite a fancy little French-ish cafe type thing near the South Bank. If anything, do you think that little businesses like this should have a little sort of like poster on the wall that says, recommend us on Love This, so kind of let people kind of know about it? I mean, do you think that's something that, and should they be doing that and more to to help the customers talk about them?
So I think lots of businesses do it, particularly small businesses do a lot to try and get their existing customers. They know they survive via word of mouth, and they do a lot of it, and some of it's sort of very subtle, and some of it's quite overt.
Yeah.
And the issue, as we all know, is if I come along and I sort of bash you over the head saying you must recommend my business, you tend to not do so, and you just got to get the balance right. So I think a lot of businesses do look at it. There are a lot of very technical solutions out there, which we all know the obvious ones.
Yeah.
And I think what we've tried to do here is actually put it in the hands of the customer. So what this cafe could do is, if you've had a really good experience here, why don't you let your friends know about it and make it very easy for that to happen?
Yeah.
Don't force it down the throat of a customer who's got better things
Yeah,
to
no,
do.
absolutely. I mean, don't just don't say, oh, please recommend this, but almost saying, if you have had, then make it conditional.
Make it very easy to do if you want to.
Do you think that the word of mouth, I mean, it's something that small businesses seem to do better, more naturally than, say, larger sort of businesses? But I mean, but small businesses seem to be having a bit of a, I mean, the economy's flat to say the least, sort of right now, and small businesses will be the businesses that bring us out of to the economy. I mean, what else do you think that's, in your experience, given that you've launched a number of sort of a big brand sort of business, but new initiatives and things, and you understand what it takes to kind of build something from the ground up, and you're doing it from the hard way, from the grassroots this time. This is not under a big brand. This is your own brand, as it were. What do you think kind of small businesses should be doing more of right now in the current environment? I mean, should they be being bolder? Should they be what should they be doing?
And I think it's hard work launching a small business. It just is hard work. I think the key thing actually for any business is prioritising things. And I think actually, I would say this, doing something like Love This, but I do absolutely believe, particularly for small business, get your product and service right. Get it as good as you can possibly do it. Because if you've got a great product, everything else is running downhill.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a great product, you show it to somebody, go, that's really cool, I'd like that. Or you go to a retailer and they want to carry it. And you do have customers do it. If you have an average product, or even heaven forbid, a not so good product, everything is massively uphill.
Yeah. No,
so it's the most, and I would say I learned that at Virgin, and everything else I've done since then has been just do the best job you can on the product, and by the best job you can on the product the customer most wants.
Yeah.
And if you solve that first thing,
so it becomes, what you end up doing is your product and its usability and the customer's sort of experience of it. That becomes the ultimate thing. If you get that, then you're pretty much 80-90% of the way there.
You will, because you'll discover every customer you have starts talking about it. Because actually, it happens remarkably rarely that people do great products. You don't run into that often, and when you do, they put a smile on your face.
Blimey, that's genius.
And it tends to be something really clever, or they've really understood you, or they've been really sensitive to what you're worried about. When somebody does it, you think it's great, and you do tell people, and particularly with social media, even if as a business you did nothing, you just let people go.
Just discover you.
But they want to share their moments of joy. That's what people do in life.
Okay.
And so the first thing is make sure you're giving your customer a moment of joy.
Fantastic.
I think the second thing is actually to remove back the other side of prioritising is pick number one thing, but also remove numbers 6 onwards. Just don't do them.
So have a very, very short list.
Yeah, so it's part of my hesitation about your previous question about should they be doing more in social stuff is, well, maybe they should do if it's up in that top 5. But I think one of the things that people, particularly small businesses, do around marketing is they look at 15 things they could do and do all 15 of them a little, and it's not really an effective use of their time.
And I think that's interesting, and you talk about prioritising and picking things that are sort of more effective. And we were talking on the way here about me doing these interviews and all that sort of stuff, and I said, it's I enjoy it. It's I get to pick people's brain, learn different things, create new stuff for the blog. But I said it's a basic sort of psychology thing. If you reach out to people because you believe they're doing good stuff and you ask them to share that with you, then it's quite an interesting sort of thing. And then you were telling me about some sort of smart marketing things that you were doing to allow you to promote the Love This sort of application. So you were talking about figuring out who the right people to speak to were, rather than just buying attention, as it were, is actually really sort of figuring out who I should be speaking to, because it's almost a bit like using the principles of your application in itself. Is like, if you make a great product, people will just spread the word, and so you're almost like figuring out who to spread the word to. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Well, what we did is because I'm a massive believer in getting the product right is is the number one priority, is I basically I found 15 people around the world who I believed had a particular perspective, either on specifically product development or quite possibly the issue we've been talking about sharing the best things in your life. I mean, it could be the psychology of that, or it could be the mechanics of how the sort of social web works. But either way, people who have the things I'm looking for is a unique perspective, actually buckets of common sense, because I do think with all this stuff, the biggest problem everyone gets into is they all find it's all far too exciting and interesting, and they lose the plot somewhere.
Too many buzzwords and possibilities rather than probabilities
exactly.
about what's going to happen.
So it's combining, so they really understand their stuff, they have sort of common sense applied to it, and they can imagine a future that's not the same as now. And I basically found 15 people around the world, and I would say I got about a 75% hit rate of just blindly making contact with them, finding an email address, whatever it was, and explaining what I was trying to do, and explaining why I love this, why I think it's important, why I think it will change the world, and getting them to buy into that. And they then give their time to this bloke sitting at the other end of the other side of the planet for quite a lot of them. And I mean, it's a nice reflection of actually a lot of people out there are sort of quite encouraging of.
Well, absolutely,
and
I think that for me the lesson with that, particularly if you think about marketing, is for too long it's too easy to buy marketing, to buy attention or to buy noise or whatever. But you were also going to mention earlier how that we are exposed to how many pages worth of sort of news editorial or content things?
There was
thousands of pages.
Yeah, there was a bit of research done. I'm going to get it was one of the American universities, but we showed that in the last 20 years the quantity of information we're exposed to each day has gone up tenfold, and it's now the equivalent of something ridiculous like 45 newspapers a day worth of information a day. And you start thinking about it, you go, actually it's true, with all the emails, Twitter, Facebook, watching on the television, sort of everything else, you're just bombarded with it, and you just can't. We don't even try and hold on to it anymore. It just passes through you.
It just washes over.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my point. Is that it's really easy to add to that. It's almost just like you just turn on the tap and somebody's going to buy or sell you kind of that sort of, oh yeah, we can do advertising, we can do this, we can do that and the other sort of thing. But actually, where you get the real returns, I think, is when you actually don't just jump into buying mode, but you actually stop and do what you did and almost spend the time to actually research and figure out who should I be talking to, how and why, and what's in it for them, and why it makes a difference, and to be smart about it in a way that actually doing the effort up front makes you stand out anyway.
Yeah.
If you've done the work on the products and stuff.
No, that's totally true.
I think that's for me. I would hope that's a really big lesson. It's particularly one that you're proving to where you've gone. We found 15 people, and we did a lot of research. We found out, we found out where they lived. We sent them an email, and you got a 75% hit rate in terms of responses from people that would go and give you feedback, recommendations, or insight, or whatever, or help. And I think that's amazing. And I wish more businesses would do that, and therefore maybe we could reduce the 45 newspapers that we get deluged with every day.
Yeah, well, I think the issue is back to it's quality versus noise type thing. So, I mean, I would say for each of those 15, I probably personally spent 2.5 days on each person researching them. So these are people that I think members of the public would know who they are.
Yeah.
I keep it private because it's not about them promoting me.
No, sure.
But it's really when you pick those people, you really got to pick them properly, and you really do proper research into what they're genuinely interested in, and you make sure it really does fit with what you're doing. And it's just a quality threshold, actually, as much as anything else. But I do believe in a world where there's so much noise, quality sticks out.
Yes,
and
completely.
That's what it's about.
Absolutely. So you also write a blog as well in the Telegraph. That's right, isn't it?
That's correct.
And which is popular and also sometimes a bit contrary as well, and therefore kind of generates a bit of noise. I thought there was one. I think one of the most popular and also controversial stories was about all marketing directors over 40 should be shot or fired or something.
You have slightly made it more. You made it a little bit more aggressive than I did. It was
that would include me, obviously.
I think it was actually saying that basically the reason the social media hasn't taken off more as being it's the fault of 40-year-old marketing directors.
You just don't quite get it.
Well, and the basic point was this should be said within the context of I'm over 40. B, lots of my friends are marketing directors, but the having worked in big businesses, I was responsible for marketing at Orange, so I've been on that side of things. I think people who've gone through that, the people who 20 years ago decided to go into marketing weren't necessarily the most analytical. They weren't thinking, should I do engineering or marketing as my choices? Whereas now, that's a quite legitimate decision to have made, given the analytical component of marketing. And social media is right at the end of the analytical. It's numbers. It's combined with creativity, but if you don't get the numbers, it doesn't make sense. And I think the issue is that the people in the really big organisations, the Oranges world, are in their 40s.
Yeah.
They chose marketing for reasons other than I love numbers. I was a bit of an aberration. I do love them. And as a result, when it comes to looking at how you allocate budgets and so on, they tend to sort of dip their toe in it.
Yes.
And I had a lunch with somebody at a global company who ran their marketing budget. He said, but I've doubled my budget last year on social media. And I went, well, what from? And he went from 2 to 4 million. And I went, well, that's great, but your total budget's 150 million. So given the return on that 4, is you can show in the numbers is 5 times what it is on the TV ad you're doing. You know, there's a bloke sitting in the corner there saying he's going to give you whatever £1.50 back for every £1 you give him, and yet you're choosing to still give it to the bloke over there who's drawing pictures for you. It's not a totally logical thing to do.
No.
So anyway, that's why it caused a bit of.
Which I thought was great. I mean, and going back to that whole idea about being awash with sort of information, and you write sort of quite a lot. I mean, how do you keep up, and do you just? Are you very carefully choose the sort of the things you read? Quite a lot of blogs and stuff, or how do you filter the noise?
I've never thought about it. Perhaps genuinely, I'm lazy, and I use my friends. So I would say most of the stuff. I mean, every now and again I bump into something, but it will be through the more. It's the biggest things where I really go, that's really interesting. Comes from a friend somewhere says you might be interested in this.
Okay.
So it's
So you're living proof of the love, the love this application.
Well, they always say you should sort of scratch your own itch when you launch your business, and I obviously am. My bad memory and reliance on my friends is obviously coming through it, but that's the answer. I have 2 small children, and I'm launching a startup, and my ability to consume, to read lots of stuff in my spare time doesn't happen too
limited.
often. Yeah.
So finally, and this is a question I always end all of these conversations on, is what would you like to shamelessly plug?
Well, love this. Obviously, it's I left a perfectly good career to come and launch it, because I do believe that Love This can make the world a better place. It can, if you're a user, then you won't go to the same 5 restaurants you ever go to, the same authors that you've read every book of. You'll go and try new things. And your life will be more full, more enjoyable, more often for less value. And at the same time, if we do share those things with our friends, what you are going to do is promote those great businesses that deserve to succeed in a way that just doesn't happen at the moment, because they get lost amongst the noise.
So, first and foremost, I mean, we'll link everything up in the write-up. But if you are listening to this and you want to check it out, it's lovethis.com.
Yep.
And just do what? Sign up, or what's the first step?
It's an iPhone app, so you can go and connect to it on, obviously, via the website. There will be a website shortly as well, a web service, and you can do that. So
fantastic. So Alexis, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.